Welcome to the UK Agri-Tech Centre's podcast, Let's Talk Agri-Tech. Today we're talking to Chioma Ezeanaka, a project manager who works at the UK Agri-Tech Centre. And we're going to talk all things her career, her amazing business acumen for International Women and Girls in Science Day. So thanks, Chioma. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sophia. Thank you for having me.
So firstly, I'd love to know how you got into science and what your story is.
Okay, I have a very interesting story. As a young girl, my parents are both medical doctors, so I assumed I was going to become a medical doctor. I already knew I was going to be in the sciences because I was following in their footsteps. But somewhere along the lines, when I was choosing my subjects for high school, senior secondary school in Nigeria, I decided I was going to do further maths, and my parents were concerned because to read medicine, I didn't need further maths. And they tried to convince me to drop it to take another subject, but I just stuck to my guns and said I wanted to do it. But when I was going to university in Nigeria, we write something called a JAM exam, which is like a pre-university entrance examination. I filled out medicine and surgery, and my result didn't come out that year. I mean, as soon as that happened, I just knew it was a sign I didn't really want to read medicine. I actually wanted to read engineering. I just went for it. My parents were confused. They tried to convince me otherwise. There's nobody who can support in engineering because in my family we have mostly doctors.
So what was the driving force behind choosing engineering rather than biological sciences?
I think it has always been there as I grew. I started to focus more on the tech side than the biological sciences, still in science, but towards the more technical parts of science.
You're a project manager now rather than an engineer. So I'd love to understand how you came into project management from your engineering background.
So I chose electronic engineering. So my bachelor's degree is in electronic engineering. After that, I went for a master's in project management because even though I loved engineering, I entered to enhance the way I think and be more process oriented in problem solving. After that, I decided to do project management because I wanted to be more on the control side rather than technical. Communications was such a big part of electronic engineering. I knew I wanted to do more of the project management side. So I did a master's in project management right after that and worked mostly in project management across several different industries, education, healthcare, construction, agriculture, government and policy. When I wanted to come back to study, it was time for me to improve myself. I invest a lot in personal development. I chose design thinking. So I did another master's in design thinking. The creative, innovative part of me was calling for development, and I found that design thinking would offer me the skills, the tool, the framework to help me get more into supporting development of innovative solutions across the project because the world has really advanced and there's a lot of demand for us to do things differently.
So two master's degrees, that's really, really impressive. I'd love to know how you dealt with being in what is typically quite a male-dominated area.
So this was me coming into engineering in the first instance. Probably, very little experience and exposure from growing up. So I assumed it was going to be very male dominated. When I got into school, it turned out that electronic engineering was the one department in engineering that had the most females. So in mechanical, civil engineering, and agric engineering, they had maybe 5 girls in a class of 100 or so students. But in my class, we're up to 20 girls. So it didn't feel that bad.
And how did you take your experience, your education in engineering, and what do you bring from that education to your current role?
My current role in the UK Agri-Tech Centre is project manager. I came into the Agri-Tech Centre when it was still CHAP before the merger. Through my master's group project, there was a challenge that CHAP, which was one of the legacy centres, had with Cranfield University, where I was studying for my degree, to redesign the lysimeters in the glass house. It was a project that had been given to several other really experienced companies in the past, but myself and my team were able to apply the tools and techniques from design thinking and come up with a solution that ticked all the boxes for them. So it sparked my interest into learning more about the company. I checked on the website, there was a vacancy, and I thought it would be interesting.
So, just to rewind a little bit, it was a project about a lysimeter. Could you tell me a little bit more about what a lysimeter is and how you were successful in that project?
A lysimeter is basically a planting box that collects data on different plant and soil metrics, depending on the experimental design. Most notably, evapotranspiration data, so how much transpiration is happening with the plants. When you measure how much water you're giving to it, how much is leaching out, what's the content of the leachate, really replicating field conditions at a pilot scale in their glasshouse facility. The first generation boxes they had were made of glass fiber, and the design was such that the lysimeters could be tethered to put together the frame and perform field scale peeling and drilling experiments on the soil to investigate how post-harvest practices affect the soil or different parameters within the soil, or the different mechanization practices affect the soil. The challenge was to redesign one that meets the environmental responsibility commitment for the organization in terms of usage and disposal at end of life, something that helps with the safety challenges they were experiencing with the filling and emptying of the boxes, because it took a lot of manual labor to get it to set up experiments. So, for example, if they're going to investigate different soil conditions in a particular environment, they will need to bring lots of soil and replicate the soil structure, that which will involve putting some stones and compacting it. It was a very manual process. So we had to design a box that could fit into some form of automation to get the work done faster and safer. Also something that could give some visibility of the roots, because some of the experimental design involved root studies to see how the roots are growing, their penetration through the different soil profiles. So to have one that has a window where you can see what's happening with the roots without compromising the structural integrity of the box. So it was a number of really key things, complex when all put together, and not surprising that many people had not done it successfully. It was outstanding and even a surprise for us that we came up with something really good.
That's so interesting. So, was that your first exposure to agricultural science and the applications of technology and engineering to come up with really clever solutions on how we can do research and development and mimic agricultural conditions in field in a laboratory environment?
It was my first exposure to agriculture, and I think some of my background helped me in contributing towards the project design. My first was in hydroponic farming, which I did as a hobby back in Nigeria. I started as a hobby when there was very little information about hydroponic farming in Nigeria, or even the tools to set up the studies. So I played around a lot, just my science and tech nature, experimenting with different things, learning what does not work. I had over 10 field experiments. So it was really a lot of learning by trial and error, but it gave me a lot of knowledge into what happens with plant growth, the kind of nutrients they require, the kind of environmental conditions that can make them thrive. I was growing a cold weather crop in a very hot climate, hot and humid. Sometimes I had humidity of up to 98% for the entire day, even 100% on some days. So that's already sparked my interest and further research into agriculture. Just knowing that planting is not enough. Before then, if you put the seeds, it's a good seed, why shouldn't it grow? So yes, I already had some of that background information, and that definitely helped when we're looking at the project, because I think I was the only person on the team that had some background in agriculture of some sort.
So that leads me on to my next question. As we're colleagues, I know that you are a really successful businesswoman. So I'd love if you could share a little bit about your business.
Yes, the business part came from the transition from hydroponic farming. At the time, I started to get really successful results I started to see seeds to harvest full heads of lettuce of over 300 grams in 28 days in an environment where typically in Nigeria, down in the south, we didn't have lettuce growing at the time. So I wanted to scale the model. I approached the Bank of Industry and they told me that they don't fund primary production of agriculture. They fund value addition because the risks involved in primary agriculture is high. And again, like I said, the information around hydroponic farming was not as well known as it is today. So it was difficult to convince them and let them know that you needed all this electricity to grow this amount of crop. So what's going to be your price point and how you're going to get it to market, even if you scale it. That led me to try to prove that there was a market for that type of grown veggies. So I took my products to the market and tried to find buyers, ask them questions. I was not doing this at a large enough scale, but what I felt was going to be a fair price point, considering what goes into growing it was not something that the market was ready to accept. So it made me think of other ways I could command more value for the product. And I decided to start making salads. I just created a flyer, put some pictures of some salads that I had made, and put some information about homegrown, very fresh. And I posted it and I sent it to a few of my friends. I had a very small farm. And in less than a week, I was out of business because all my crops were, but that helped me understand that there was really a demand for fresh grown vegetables. People are willing to pay a premium for it.
And you still run this business, this successful business, alongside being a project manager for the UK Agri-Tech Centre.
So the business is still running and there's a team managing it. Over the years, I've transitioned to chief strategist and team mentor. I don't actively do the CEO role anymore.
And how do you find time to do all of this amazing work and balance all of the tasks that are required in your job and running a business as well?
I think it's an ongoing balancing act. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. But in general, when I'm at work, I'm at work. And the team knows that's 9 to 5. When we have strategy sessions, especially now during the winter, we're 1 hour behind. So when they're at work, we wouldn't have started work yet. So I put in maybe an hour or two to have sessions with the team. And the weekends, I review some of the things they've done, just puts my comments. I try to maximize the use of technology, gain an advantage that I really see my previous experience and my mindset as an engineer helping me to do that because lots of the typical systems that are out there are not particularly designed to support my role in the way that I have to do it because of my current commitments. So I had to create something that works for me in terms of managing, having a dashboard that shows me the numbers I need to make quick decisions when the team needs my attention.
You're a really ambitious, hardworking person, a very busy person from the sounds of it. How do you find the time, the balance, and the resilience to do so much?
I wrote a small post this morning on one of my social media pages that people often ask me this question of how did you do it? And my simple, straightforward answer, I'm a very resilient person. I don't like to give up. I don't like to say I can't. So I'm always looking out for what's the next best step? How do I get this done rather than I can't? So if I was to give a little more context, I started my business playing around with hydroponics in 2017, but effectively I started the business in 2018, in October. By April, because of family, we had to move. So I'd spent just about 4 months setting up the business and I had to move to another city while having 2 young children to care for as primary caregiver. So yeah, in the past 6 years of running the business, I've had to move houses about 5 times, had to change my children's school 5 times, to set up the business location in 2 cities, set up a different factory and set up some working locations, about 8 of those things, all of this in the space of 6 years. What has helped me the most is the mindset of if you say you can't, you won't. If you say you can, you find a way. There was the stretch and the pull from many different directions and different seasons of my life. Different seasons of my life have demanded my time and attention in different measures. Yeah. So at every point in time, I just focus on the one that's most important. My priority is always family. So when family needs my attention, everything else has to wait. Rather than just shutting down, I allow things to go quiet and then focus on what needs my attention at the time and then pick up and continue when I'm in a better position to do so. And I think that has helped me develop my decision making. I like to make decisions very quickly, just move on. See the data. And I'm big on data collection. See the data the way it needs to be presented, make a decision and move on. If it doesn't work out the way I expected, just learn from it and move on. That was developed because I didn't have a lot of options, but it has helped me a lot in other areas of my life.
So my next question is a bit of a broader question. I know that success is not easily achieved and we need people to help us, to lift us up, and we need really good role models. So I'd love to ask you, who are the role models in your life? Who are the mentors and who's helped you in your achievements today?
My first role model is my mother. Yes, my mom. I said earlier, she's a medical doctor. And when I had that gap year before I got into the university, that was around when she was starting her private hospital. So I followed her around a lot. I observed how she juggled between being a consultant and head of the department in the government hospital, as well as setting up her business. So I think subconsciously I was picking up things I didn't realize at the time. So yeah, definitely my mom. I learned so much from her. Next, I would say when you have so many responsibilities, you learn to reach out for help and identify that asking for help is actually a reflection of strength rather than weakness. One notable person that helped me when it seemed overwhelming mentally to accommodate all the things I was doing and the challenges balancing what I needed to focus on was Kola Ogunfayo. She's a transition coach. I went through several transitions in a very short period. I worked with her for about a year, so that was very instrumental. She has a background in architecture and she's very science inclined. So we're aligned in the way we're thinking and communicating. Finally, in this space, especially in the area of impact, as a person, I'm very motivated by impact. I'm self-driven, and the reason I choose to do things is because I believe in it. I think I can make an impact. I think I can make things better. I love to make things better. In the area of impact, someone that has been my virtual mentor. She doesn't know she's my mentor is Ndidi Wuneli. Yes, the CEO. She's the founder of Sahel Consulting, an African food chain makers, and currently she is the president of One Foundation.
So obviously a lot of support, a lot of mentorship, a lot of building you up to be, a successful woman. I'd like to ask what challenges you faced and how you've overcome them.
I'll give an example with one of my first major projects. It was a construction project for the centenary celebration, Nigeria at 100 years. And that was a loan from the World Book Capital Project. So I was a project manager and they were building a state-of-the-art library as part of that celebration. Because of the size of the project and it was sponsored by Shell companies in Nigeria, we had lots of consultants and different interests represented on the project. The project was sited beside the military golf course. So again, we had some interest from the military represented on that project, very male-dominated project. And at the time, I was pregnant with my second. So it was the pregnant project manager sitting at meetings and, asking questions and refusing to be bullied. It seemed difficult at first, just getting them to take me serious, and at the same time trying to manage all the things that were happening with my body. So it exposed me to how things could go and to be taken seriously, just to reflect that you knew what you were doing. I needed to put in extra time studying the project, meeting with people, even if I was not an expert on a lot of the construction areas. It was good that I had a background in engineering, so I could understand the engineering drawings, implications of the things they were requesting, and then to put my foot down on some decisions. But it was not as easy as I would have liked it. Like the type of conversations you have when you're dealing with quite a mixed crowd, or even with more women present. But I didn't see that the time as a disadvantage. I just saw it as a learning opportunity. Yeah, and it helped me. Now, I think with career growth, and it's very helpful for you to progress in your career, show that you're investing in personal development and having more exposure to dealing with more people. I think coming to a room, people just generally take you more seriously. If you're present in this type of meeting, or if you're here, you must have done something right. So people are more inclined to listen to you. It has changed that we have seen so many women shatter glass ceilings, opening roads for more of us to walk in through those doors and have conversations, and people will stop and listen to us, or even seek us out and ask for our opinion or contribution to significant matters. So there's been very good progress.
That's a great segue for my next question. You're talking about women shattering glass ceilings and how we have more opportunity. What advice would you give to women and girls in science who are looking to achieve some of the things you've achieved, make progress and develop themselves?
So first is you just have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself, even if no one else does. And believing in yourself takes a lot of work. Like they say, you're the only person that knows all the things that you did not do that you were meant to do. And sometimes these things impact on your self-belief and your confidence in achieving your goals. But it only gets better if you keep trying. First, believe in yourself. Second, put yourself in situations where you are stretched and you will show up for opportunities. Even if you think you don't qualify for it, just keep showing up. Those things add up. Do not put yourself aside in pursuit of other people's goals or just in supporting of other people around you. Make sure you make out time and set aside resources to invest for yourself. And I think one of my biggest is get into communities and environments where you see people who have done what you want to do and are succeeding. Even if it's not in what you want to do, it just creates a mindset shift that allows you to open your mind to more. And a lot can happen when your mind is open and ready to take on more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a mindset shift is really, really important. And that's quite inspirational what you're saying. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will agree. My last question, what are you excited about in agri-tech? What are you excited about in your work? What are you looking forward to?
So it's the possibility of getting the food system, maybe even starting nationwide, or but ultimately globally, to a place where we have a structure that works for everybody. I see there's so much innovation going on at different levels and different areas of the value chain. So I see a future where each sector is fully developed, but there is interconnectivity that allows us to continue to adapt and to grow into the needs for the future. So yeah, it's that possibility that we can do something and I can contribute towards that in some way. And that there are many other great, brilliant minds working on this solution. I don't see how we cannot.
And finally, if you had to pick 3 things that are really important to your career that you take to work every day, what would you pick?
Design thinking, innovation, process optimization.
Spoken like a true engineer. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Chioma, about your career and your journey so far. It's really interesting to learn about how many inspiring things you're doing with your time and how you manage it all and you balance it and your amazing mindset. So it's been wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sophia. It was really nice chatting with you.